Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the next episode in our podcast mini series here with Sara Cox from Phantom Sports in Vero Beach, Florida, my little sister. And we are now going to be talking about creating a positive mindset and what that looks like, some examples of what that could look like, techniques to cultivate optimism and reframe negative thoughts. And just before we were recording, of course, we were saying all the things that we wouldn't say on a recording of, we probably learned how to reframe our negative thoughts out of necessity because people look to us and we needed to figure out a way to do that so we could model the behavior that we wanted them to have so that they didn't have negative mindset. But it's because we didn't always have that. And, I think you spend your life either trying to not be the way you witnessed someone being growing up, or like you're avoiding being that way, or you just are being that way and you don't even realize it because that's what you're taught to do. So all of that to say, for me, having to reframe my negative thoughts was a learned process. I didn't come out of the womb with happy thrive vibes, laughing and joyful, and everything was rainbows. I really had to learn how to be reflective in order to reframe something that wasn't very positive. What about you, Sara?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It is a learned skill for the majority of people, I believe. I've had to learn to switch how I look at things and how I say things. Because having businesses that you're running, having kids that you homeschool, like it's a constant battle. There's constant stress. There's ebb and flow of good times and bad times. And sometimes those bad times can pile up on you and dogpile. And it's so easy to just want to pitch a tent and throw a pity party because you feel overwhelmed with everything. And so people can pick up on that and see that.
But sometimes it's good just to have that for a moment and then
Yeah,
you're done with it.
but it's hard not to
Time
get
is life.
stuck there. So what I've learned to do, it's not ignore that everything's not okay, but because usually when somebody's saying to you, "Hey, are you okay?" They already know the answer to that. So I've
That's why
learned
they're
to
asking
try
you.
to change my mindset on how I respond to help remind me that I will be okay. So instead of being like, no, life sucks right now. Our washing machine broke. I've got a stack of bills higher than I have the stack of invoices to invoice people, or, this account isn't paying, or a truck broke down again, or all these things that can pile up. I've learned to just be like, I will be okay. And that mindset shift helps you to focus more on creating a positive outlook than the negative of everything that's going on, and trying to keep some sort of sense of positivity of, no, it's not okay right now, but I will be okay.
I go with the typical, oh, I'm fine. Oh, I'm great. And with that look, like, but I'm not. So stop talking about it. But I do think, when people say they're fine, I feel like that word is your indicator
Yeah.
that things are not all fine. And now I do actually use it as a check-in. If someone asks me how I'm doing, I actually think about it for a second because I think, how am I doing? Because I used to just answer fine, fine, good, I'm great. Or I'd lie. I think I need to fake it till I made it, which that's not always helpful. And now I actually do check in with I'm like, no, I'm actually really good right now. I'm actually fine. I'm actually fine. And that's that.
Yeah,
But I
absolutely.
don't, because some people really do care and they ask that, but then some people it is just a nicety and they're just asking because they're like passing by you.
Yeah. Well, and those are the ones that I don't really like to throw out, I'm fine or great, just out of nowhere, because I find that when I do that, I believe it. And we discussed in another episode, your brain believes what you tell it. So if you're not okay and you're constantly saying, I'm okay, you're conflicting with yourself. So your body feels like it's not okay, but you are relaying a message to your brain that you're okay, and you're constantly feeling like you're in conflict. So I found that when I answer in a more truthful way without, telling the average person all of the things that are raining down in my life, it's reassuring and refortifying that fact. And I'm telling my brain, and it's going to believe it, that I'm going to be okay. And 9 times out of 10, those people that don't care, that they're just asking to make conversation, they're not going to catch that anyways. They're going to hear, okay. And I'll be like, oh, okay, I'm great. Oh, that's great. They're not going to hear that you actually said, I'll be okay. They just hear, I'm okay.
Well, you have kids that are watching you too. They don't understand. Don't do what I say. Don't do what I do. Don't do what I say. Do what I do, or something. Whatever that saying is. They're watching your every move. They're watching how you react, and because they're trying to set their own baseline for what's normal and what's
Right.
acceptable, socially acceptable. So if you were to say, I mean, I know it's deeper, and this is probably a whole nother episode because we're trying to keep these less than 10 minutes. But if you were to be saying, I'm fine, in front of your children who are listening to you, they would think it was socially unacceptable to ever be anything but fine and great.
Right. Yep.
And then they would just be holding it in because they would feel like, well, obviously that's not a real question. And obviously I'm never supposed to be honest.
Right. And yeah, I never thought about that part of it. But you're right. And I think subconsciously, that's probably where a lot of that comes from, is because growing up having to pretend like everything was okay when in reality it wasn't. That tends to stick with you. And I don't want that for my kids. Like how you said at the beginning of this, you spend your life either trying to be the opposite of what you watched, or you just are oblivious to it. And I've consciously, the older I've gotten, tried to do things different than what our childhood was.
But you're right. So much of it is it's just part of your belief system, and it's just ingrained in you. And you don't even honestly, there are things that I do that I'm like, everybody doesn't do that, until I realize everybody doesn't do that. And I think, oh gosh, I guess that's just me. Okay. And then I can see, but it is more of a reflective and reframing negative thoughts. There are some people that say, I look at bills like prepaid invoices from the gods or whatever, when when they're trying to build their wealth, like they try to psych themselves out. They try to define things in different ways so that it can make it a more positive. I feel like there's some people that go overboard in trying to create a false life that they want because they feel
Right.
like they watched The Secret every day for a month, and they just think if they keep having a vision board and watching The Secret and calling their bills prepaid checks from the universe, like they somehow think that that's real. So I think that there are two kinds, but I think reframing negative thoughts is really just it's taking what is truly real for what's happening, but reframing it in a way that you can understand it and overcome it and get through it.
Right. Finding the silver lining.
Yes. And I know I say that all the time. Mom used to say that. She used to say, this too shall pass. And I used to think, don't say that thing. But she would say it. And I hated that she would say it. And she
Yep.
would say, this too shall pass. This too shall pass. And now I'm almost 50, and I hear myself saying, this too shall pass. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to say that. I say it because it's true. It will
Yeah,
pass. And if we're lucky enough, we're going to wake up tomorrow and we're going to have a fresh start. So trying
exactly.
to reframe the negative instead of, like you said, just getting stuck there, because it is so easy. I talked about this in one of my other episodes, one of my solo episodes, of it's so easy to see all the things that aren't working for you and that aren't going well. And for some reason, it's just harder we have to focus when we're looking to find the things that we're grateful for, because it just comes naturally. For me, maybe this isn't everybody. Maybe some people do dream in rainbows, but for me, I really do have to focus on the things that I'm grateful for. And in a situation, what good can come from it, so that I don't go down that vortex of all the
Right.
things happening that are bad.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. And back, oh gosh, it was last year sometime. My brain blocked it out because it was feeling traumatic at the moment. But like we had Todd's truck breakdown, my car breakdown, we had to repipe the whole house all within the span of like a month and a half. And it was overwhelming. And it was like, oh my gosh. And it depleted my savings that I had. And at first I was so bummed about that. But then I realized if this would have been 10 years ago, I wouldn't have had a savings
I
to
remember you were
cultivating
so upset
expenses.
because you were so proud of that savings that you had built up and you were
Yeah.
so,
But I realized it did its job. It was emergencies and that's what it was there for. And it covered it. So like I had to reframe my mindset from just being negative. Yeah, it was negative stuff that happened. Yeah, it was frustrating, but there was still something to be thankful for in it. And there was still a positive to remind myself of, and to be able to say, I'll be okay. I did it once, I can do it again. And we had it there for this emergency. That's what it was there for. So just little things like that. You're not going to sweep the negative under the rug and pretend like it didn't happen, but you can reframe your thought process to find that silver lining, to find the positive, and to be able to move forward in a healthy way.
one thing Aunt Barbara told me a long time ago, because I kept saying, like, I kept making stories up in my head for things that were unknowns. Like, but if this happens, this is going to happen. She's like, but how do you know that? And I'm like, well, because I'm just sure, like, this is going to happen. It's going to end me. And she said, what is the worst thing that could happen if this happens? And I said, well, I mean, just facts are facts. If this happens, this is going to happen. And she said, okay, so then how would you deal with that? And I said, well, I guess I would do such and such. And she said, you already figured it out. I was
Mm.
so focused on the thing being so bad that I hadn't focused on, well, if it is actually that bad. And then you know what? It didn't end up being anything that I made up in my head. I lost sleep. I lost probably a few good meals and some good desserts because I was just so stressed out about with this thing. And I don't even remember what the thing was, but in that moment, it felt so big. But just understanding, okay, but if this does happen, I know, I mean, I can make it through that. I mean, that's
Yep.
actually not as bad as what I had thought if I only think about the unknown.
Right. Exactly. Well, and you had mentioned before about with your whole closet and things, changing your mindset. And you said that you liked what I said
I did. I
about
did. And I wanted you to say it again. We were talking
about
about cleaning out my closet. And if anybody actually personally knows me, you know that's a big deal. Because I turned a room into a closet and it is like Nordstrom's and it is my happy place. And it turned into not my happy place because it just got so full of things that I loved the look of, but not on me. And it just started getting cluttery. And I was telling Sarah that I actually said, you know what, I'm going to clean out my closet. I'm going to do this a little bit at a time. And I did it, you know, I would put on something and if I didn't like it within seconds, then, and you know what, if I really wanted, if I was marginal, I would go stand in front of my husband for a second because men are brutal. And but I did preface it by saying to him, we are not going to fight about this. I will not hold it against you. Do you like this or not? And I would just walk out and he would say yes or no. And it was easy. Donation stack, donation stack, donation stack. And I felt better about donating my things so someone else could really appreciate it. But Sarah had a different spin on it. And I did like what you said.
well, I think sometimes we trap ourselves. We go in the closet and we have these things that we held on to because we like the look of it. We had this idea in our head of what it was going to look like on us, but in reality, it didn't look on us the way it looked on a hanger, or it didn't feel right, or it was uncomfortable. But because we like the look of it, we hold on to it thinking, oh, but I like it, so I'm just going to hold on to it. But then we feel obligated to wear that clothing that makes us uncomfortable, makes our day miserable because now we're wearing this and we're uncomfortable, or it's itchy, or it's just a little
We
too
feel
small.
self-conscious.
Yeah, we feel self-conscious. And so I think that's the best thing you can do for yourself. And that's changing your mindset from negative to positive, is saying, hey, you know what? This thing makes me feel awful. So I'm going to donate it to somebody that it doesn't make feel awful. And those little things really add up in your life. And I think it's kind of important. I was glad that you talked about it because I was glad that you got rid of those things that were making you feel unnecessarily unhappy with yourself.
And you know what I thought about is it's going to make someone else so happy. Like they're
Yes,
going to find it at my thrift store that I donated it to, and they're going to be like, I can't believe I just found this here. I mean, I'm sure that all my discards are not going to be someone else's gem, you know, but I call them treasures from thrift stores. And I'm sure other people are going to think that my treasures are their treasures. So
exactly.
yeah. So, but it's about changing your negative thoughts. So instead of saying I have to keep this because I paid for it and I feel guilty and I just like bash myself forever having wasted my time or money, I just reframe it to it's no longer serving me. and it's
Yep.
going to make someone else happy.
Somebody else is going to be made happy by this.
And when I wear the things that I have left in my closet, I'm happy.
Yep.
I like them. So it's a simple thing, but it is. So I guess the call to action here would be naturally just to look at the things that you do or that you don't do or that you don't need to do, but the things that don't make you happy or things that you have lying around. I mean, Tim tells me that he's gonna, one day call hoarders on me. I don't think I'm a hoarder. I like tchotchkes. I'm a
You're
tchotchke girl.
not a
Okay?
hoarder.
I'm a tchotchke girl. Like I like the my little plaque that says no crabs allowed. I live in the Keys. So I like my tchotchkes, but there comes a point where I do go through and say, okay, is this cluttering my mind when I walk in this room, or do I still enjoy all the things that are in it? And so it sounds like something so simple, but when I walk in my closet room now, the fact that I can even say closet room, I'm going to add that to my journal for gratitude in the morning because I love my journal, my closet room. But when I walk in there, it makes me so happy. It just makes me so happy again. And that's what it used to do. So I guess the call to action is find the things that make you happy. And if they don't make you happy, find a way for them to make you happy.
Yep. I think that
Uh,
sounds like a great idea.
All right. Well, thank you. That is another episode in our mini series done. Thank you so much, Sarah, and we'll see you back for the next one.